So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, wanted to seek the blessings of Shri Radha Madhav, Radha Damodar, Radha Shyam, Sundar, Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal, Ramachandra Bhagwan, Nrsingadev, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Marani, Gaunitai ki, and Tulsi Mani, Shri Haridas Thakur, Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees. So we're continuing with the Damodar Leela. And we've reached chapter 10, chapter 11, text 6 of the 10th canto. When Nand Maharaj saw his own son bound with ropes to the wooden mortar, dragging it, he smiled and he released Krishna from his bonds. So we looked at before this how Krishna had felled the trees and then liberated effectively the two devatas, Nalkuver and Manigriva. And he told them to leave because he had a more important task of playing with the Gopas to consider. So, with the demigods gone, Krishna was now free to resume his role as a cowherd boy. So he's got two main roles. One, he's a supreme lord, supreme controller. He's the source of everything. He's avatari. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent. So that is always there because that's what Krishna is. But at the same time, he's also eternally a cowherd boy. This is such a extraordinary understanding of the position of the Lord. If we can understand that he's simultaneously the Supreme Lord, but is also a cowherd boy. And he longed for his friends. Standing up to better see over the fallen trees, he caught sight of them in the distance and signaled to them to come and play with him. The boys were now free from their invisible bonds and were reunited with their glorious friend, embracing him. So this is part of Yoga Maya's doing. She would intervene when necessary in order to increase Krishna's enjoyment from the Leela. So the boys, they could not approach Krishna when the demigods were present because Krishna had to deal with the demigods first. Now he was free. So the boys were also free to join him. So there you go. They're surrounded by branches and leaves of that tree, Yamula Arjun tree, which was fallen. And Krishna's friends are all around him, embracing him. They didn't know whether to cheer Krishna or caution him. Wait until your mother sees your latest antics. He felled two trees in their garden. And you think the mortar punishment was bad. She will tie you to those other trees and make you stay here overnight. So this is the Gopas teasing Krishna. The boys laughed at Krishna. However, Krishna crossed his arms and said in defiance, I can pull mountains if I want to. The boys laughed. Of course he did. When he was 7, he lifted Govardhan. Raising his voice, he said, wait and see. Not only when I move a mountain, will I move a mountain, but I will also lift it. You wait and see. Sridham said, we will wait for that day. But now tell us, who are those two beings you were talking to? So boys had seen what happened and described that to Krishna. However, Krishna tried to downplay his role in toppling the trees. These boys could never hold a secret. There's two aspects to this. One is, yes, he didn't want everybody to know what he had done. But second, there's an humility, natural humility about the Lord. He'll never boast, I've done this, I've done that. He'll do everything. He supports us in every single way. But yeah, he doesn't advertise that I'm supporting you. He doesn't, we don't even know that he's supporting us. But he is. And if we consider our own body, for example, when we eat something and it gets digested, Krishna is entering our stomach as fire to digest that food. So he's helping us. We don't even know he's helping us. We just think, oh yeah, if we eat something, it'll get digested and it'll turn into energy or blood or whatever, and we, this and that. But we should understand that Krishna maintains us at every single level. Anyway, Krishna, he says, in reply to the boys, they were spirits living in the tree who broke out of the tree when the curse finished. The Gopas were not convinced. But Krishna changed the subject and started playing with the mortar, a new game. In the meantime, the Brijbasis looked around to see what could have caused such a terrible noise. There were two noises. One was the cracking of the tree, which was tumultuous, but two trees. And the second was when the trees fell on the ground. There are two very loud, terrible sounds. Sounded like thunder, but the sky was clear. So the Brijbasis, they were wondering, what's going on? Where's this noise coming from? Such a terrible noise. Some Gopas visiting from Raval came across Krishna and his friends playing amongst the fallen trees. And they reported this to Yashoda Mai. She thought trees had fallen on Krishna. She fainted out of great anxiety. So mother, she was feeling great guilt. Oh no, I tied my boy to the mortar and the trees have fallen. They must have fallen on him. And she was very anxious. And she fainted. In her faint, mother was in a panic and was running towards Krishna to rescue him. But actually, the ladies were trying to revive her. So she was thinking she was running to save Krishna. Actually, she was on the floor. The ladies were trying to revive her, the elderly gopis. In the meantime, Nanda Maharaj had returned with Rohini and Balaram. Nanda Baba quickly headed toward the scene of the calamity. Perhaps a demon had attacked Krishna again. The Gopas took sticks as weapons. So these demons were very powerful. The Gopas wouldn't stand a chance against any of the demons. But yet, in order to protect Krishna, they were willing to sacrifice their life. This is what Krishna meant to them. Some of the boys noticed the cowherd men coming and warned Krishna, "You're in real trouble now." Krishna told the boys to hide. The boys were giggling and with Krishna having great fun in this adventure. The cowherd men looked for Krishna, but not seeing him, they looked for demons or signs of demons, like footprints, but nothing was found. At that time, Yashoda Mai and her friends arrived. She was frantic with worry. It is said that the force of the devotee's pure ecstasy can reach such heights as to neutralize Krishna's divinity. The Krishna's divinity is there if we want to see it. But because the Gopas, the Gopis, they were in so much love with Krishna, that love covered in their eyes from his divinity. Yeah. So it didn't matter to them. It didn't matter. He was God, fair enough. He does amazing things, fair enough. But he's still our friend. He's still my son. With his mother present, Krishna was unable to remain hidden. He whispered to his friends, "Let us surprise them before they discover us." So Krishna and his friends started playing with the mortar in the open. Excuse me. And when the Brijbasis saw them safe, they were elated. How did he appear so suddenly? So the Brijbasis, they were wondering, especially as he was still struggling with the mortar. At first, the Brijbasis could not make the connection between Krishna, the mortar, and the trees. They couldn't understand that Krishna had felled those trees. However, Ishadamai recognized the relationship between the three, and she thought to herself, what if the trees had fallen on Krishna? She was speechless and immobile. When her husband and the others rushed to Krishna, Yashodamai remained where she was, fighting to see through her tears. She was in shock. She was in shock. What if I had hurt my boy? Unthinkable. Meanwhile, the elderly Gopas worked out that the mortar was the cause of the toppling of the trees. They were perplexed, especially as Krishna was still tied to the mortar. They said to each other, Krishna could have been crushed and killed. No doubt Lord Narayan has protected him once again. So he would do amazing things. I'm sorry, just 1 second. Let me just pause. So every time something happened to Krishna, he would be the one, of course, like the wind demon, Vrittasura, I think it was. So each time something happened and he was saved after that, they would think, Vishnu, Narayan is protected. Of course, he is Narayan. He is Vishnu. He is the protector of everybody. So Nand Baba was contemplating how these two powerful trees snapped at their base like twigs. His brother Nanda suggested, as the children were with Krishna all along, they may know what happened. The Brajabasis looked at the children, who were just as perplexed as the adults. But unlike the adults, the boys were not bewildered by the mystery of who felled the trees, but by the sweetness of Damodar. So you see, there's different levels of Gopas as well. There's the elderly Gopas, they're like a father figure to Krishna. They have a different mood towards Krishna. It's in Vatsalya Ras. But the younger Gopas, they have Sakyaras mood, and they saw the tree had fallen. They saw the two divine personalities come, and they saw the two divine personalities bow to Krishna. But none of that bothered them. They were just enjoying with Krishna because he's so sweet. They knew that he did remarkable things. So they spoke up. It was Krishna. He did it. He felled the trees. And they shared the pastime. Krishna was dragging the mortar between the two trees, which then crashed to the ground. Demigods came out of the trees, prayed to Krishna, and then left, flying to heaven. Who's going to believe that? Who's going to believe that? The men would not believe the children. But at least it was some kind of explanation. After the friends' disclosure of the truth of the events, Krishna was a little concerned that the men may give thought to his superhuman powers and show reverence towards him. To offset such a possibility, Krishna applied his talents to childhood play, tugging at the mortar, making grunting sounds, showing irritation and not being able to easily move it. Observing Krishna's activities, the men said to each other, what fertile imagination these boys have. What stories will they not make up to glorify their friend? They were telling the truth, but Krishna didn't want them to have this mood of awe and reverence towards him because he loved their current mood, which was as protector of Krishna. They were like in Vatsalya Bhav, a parental Bhav. Nand Baba moved closer to his son. This was his first entrance into the Leela. Krishna was a little reserved, fearing further punishment. Nand Baba's first concern was for his son's well-being. Seeing the boy playing with his new toy, the mortar, Nand Baba inferred that Krishna was not hurt. Affectionately running his hands over Krishna's every limb, he confirmed that his son was unscathed. When Krishna moved the mortar a little, his chest swelled with pride at his extraordinary son. Although he had no doubt about the extent of his wife's love for their son, so he knew how much Yashoda loved him. There's no doubt about that. He was surprised at the punishment that his wife had imposed on Krishna. Firstly, binding him and then leaving him alone without thinking of the dangerous consequences. That was negligence. So he was a little unhappy. Why would she bind him? Why would she leave him alone? However, more than anyone else, he understood and he worshipped Yashoda Mai as the perfect mother. In their parenting, she was stricter. He was a permissive, doting father. To encourage Krishna, Nanda Baba smiled at him to reassure him. His father's reassuring countenance eased Krishna's mind, and he smiled widely in return. His father was not upset, even though he had been so naughty. Casting a mildly reproaching glance at his wife, Nanda Baba leaned over the mortar to untie his son. But before doing so, he looked back at Yashoda Mai as if to ask, may I? Actually, the fact is, nobody could have untied Krishna without the permission of Yashoda Mai. Her love is greater than anybody except Srimati Radharani. And that love is so great that there was no chance for that rope to be untied by anybody other than her, unless she gives permission. Except for Yashoda Mai, no yogi, no jnani, no bhakta, however competent, had authority to bind the Supreme Lord to a mortar. And only one who was her equal, Nanda Baba, was qualified to free Krishna from the chains. And even then, only with her permission. So you can see the depth of love of Yashoda Mai. Yashoda Mai replied with a faint but anxious smile, yes, free him. With this empowerment, Nanda Baba first untied the rope binding the mortar. Then he turned to Krishna and untied the rope from Krishna's waist, repeatedly chanting, Govinda Damodar Madhav, Govinda Damodar Madhav. So this is Nanda Baba embracing Krishna. With Krishna free and embracing him, smelling his head, covering his cheeks with kisses. Nanda Baba did that. As the rope that bound Krishna's belly fell to the ground, so the rope fell to the ground, right? It manifested its full length, and its full length was miles, right? Miles, because it was the aggregate of all the churning ropes and cow ropes in Gokul. Nand Baba was too absorbed in the ecstasy of loving his son to notice. Even if he had, he'd simply shrug off the marvel as another one of the great mystical events that followed his great son. In the spirit of a mistreated child. So now Krishna's playing the role of a hurt child. He started to cry, and tearfully he outreached his arms towards his father. Bending low, Nanda Baba lifted his son and held him close to his chest and said, "O son, where is the evil-minded person who tied you to this mortar?" Ooh, phew. Krishna leaned towards his father's cheek and wrapped his arms around his neck. Speaking into his father's ear, but loud enough for others to hear, he replied, "Father, it was mother who did it." His eyes found his wife, who was now trying to hide behind her friends. "That cannot be, son. You must be mistaken." "No, father, she did it. You can ask any of the others here. They were there too." Nand Baba turned to the other ladies, but they all lowered their faces or covered their eyes with their veils. The king was upset that his son had been placed in jeopardy. He knew that Yashoda Mai will regret her conduct, and no words of reprimand from him will match her self-censure. So, of course, Yashoda Mai was in deep regret what had happened. She tied the boy, she left him alone, and she now is regretting it. But nobody could really chastise her because her own regret was so deep. He knew the depth of her love for their son and how much pain that love must be now causing her. So he did not chastise his wife. Nand Baba was supremely expert. How he knew how to deal with people. The young boys came close around to comfort Krishna and confirm Krishna's words to Nand Baba and told him what had happened, adding to what they had said before. When Krishna went between the two trees, the mortar got struck sideways and the trees fell with a crash. The trees fell sideways and never touched Krishna, not even a leaf. Smiling as if he believed the boys, Nand Baba remained doubtful. These boys go on a bit. Their stories they dream up. Then the Brajvasis came to reassure Krishna that his ordeal was over. First came the men, then the women. They caressed Krishna, smelled his head, offered words of comfort, and then joined together in the Sankirtan of Krishna's pastimes as the Brahmanas recited Vedic hymns. The only ones who did not come were Yashodamai and her friends. Yashodamai stood behind the trees, watching the proceedings. Too ashamed to remain, she, assisted by her friends, returned to the palace, covering her tear-stricken face with her veil. So she was heartbroken, devastated. Devastated. She couldn't go towards her son. She was feeling too guilty, nor her husband. At the moment that Yashodamai reached the palace gates, Rohini Devi and Balaram arrived from Sahara. So let me just see where we are. Okay, let's stop there and we'll continue. Oh, on Monday I've got a school which is very late. So we'll start again on Tuesday. So thank you very much, everybody joining. Any questions, any comments? Yes, Priyanjali.
What was Nand Baba's brother's name?
Nandana was one, Nandana. Another was,
Upnand?
yes, Upananda. Very good.
But
Yes.
I didn't know that he had two brothers. I only saw the Upnand.
No, I think he's got a few brothers. Yeah, he's got a few. I think I can't remember how many, but I think there's more than two.
And they have Nand in their name.
Yes, that's right. They've all got Nanda in their name.
And do they live together in Vrindavan
No,
or Gokul?
no. Upananda, he lives quite far, I think. Or one of them lives in Vrindavan, and another one lives in, I think they call it Sahara. I'm not quite sure where that is. In
Upnand lives in Vrindavan.
Yeah, I think he might have been. He may have been. I think he may have been. But
Well,
there's, hmm. Sorry, say again.
um, well, I always hear when I watch Krishna
Hmm.
movies that Upanand lives with um in Vrindavan or Gokul.
Right. Yeah, maybe. But there's one brother Farah, and that's where they went to celebrate Diwali to the other brother's house. So one of them definitely doesn't live in Vrindavan.
Who's the oldest?
I think Nand Baba is the eldest of all of them. As
Who's
far
the
as I know.
youngest?
Sorry? Who's the youngest? I'm not sure.
And then you don't know who the middle one is.
No. But I don't know how many brothers there are. Let me just check actually. Let me see if I can find it. No, I can't find it immediately. Yeah, we can do you can check it, see how many brothers Nanda Baba had. Yeah.
Okay, Prabhuji.
No, thank you for asking. Thank you for your interest. Anything else, Priyanjali? Okay.
No, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Madhuben, you're not you are muted, but Madhuben, can't hear you.
Sorry. I know you when since you started Damodar Leela, I didn't attend the classes up to
Yeah.
now. So I missed so much things. But only one question is why we call the Damodar Leela?
Yes, Damodar is Damo means rope and Udhar around the stomach. Damodar. So because he's been tied by Mother Yashoda
Mm,
to the wooden log,
mm.
so he is famously called Damodar, one who has been tied around the stomach with rope.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that name, everybody was calling him Damodar at that time, and he found that insulting. But then, actually, that name has become
Famous.
very affectionate name for him, and he loves that name now. He
Mm.
loves it when he's called Damodar.
Yeah, and I know that the old most of devotees called Damodar Krishna. Instead of Krishna, they call Damodar in India most of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And second thing, sometimes in this story we just say Krishna is avatari, right?
He's Avatari. He's
Yeah.
the source of everything.
Yeah. So when he comes on earth,
Hmm.
people recognize him as a avatari Purush.
No,
No?
hardly anybody recognize Krishna as God. Hardly anybody. Because remember, he doesn't advertise himself that I am God.
Hmm.
He hides himself. The Pandavas, they knew. Kunti Mata, they knew. Bhishma, they
Hmm.
knew. Vidhur,
Hmm.
um, and a few others. But hardly anybody. Hardly anybody.
That's why we call avatari, yeah?
Avatari means he's the source of the avatars.
Avatars, yeah, yeah.
Avatars come from the avatari.
Avatar comes from avatari.
Yeah, that's right.
Confused.
Yeah. So, the Bhagavad Gita explains that, and the Srimad Bhagavad Puran, it says Krishna stu Bhagwan Swayam. Krishna is the original supreme personality of God from whom everybody else comes.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yes, Priyanjali. You've written something. Yeah, Nand Baba and Vasudev, they were cousins, not actual brothers. That's right.
Mm.
All right, let's stop and we'll catch up with everybody on Tuesday. Monday is a busy day, unfortunately. Very, very busy day. Okay.
Yeah.
Damodar ki jai, Radha Damodar ki jai, Yashoda Damodar ki, Damodar Leela ki jai.